In this episode, we're going to cover the 5 biggest mistakes sellers make when selling their homes. We're going to break it down. All right, welcome back to the Anchored Real Estate Podcast. We're glad to have you with us. I'm with my glorious co-host, Cody Chembars, aka Maverick. Cody is the managing broker here at Anchor Real Estate Advisors, and I'm just a guy that hangs around.
Multi-million-dollar producer, Circle of Excellence recipient.
Oh, shucks.
3 years in a row?
Yeah. That's it. So in this episode, we want to jump into mistakes that we see, and it's recurring sometimes, but it's mistakes that we see sellers making. So we're going to jump right into it. We got 5 that we're going to cover, and here's our approach. Our scenario is there's a neighborhood, there's 2 or more houses for sale, and one of them sells real quick, and the other one sits for 2 or 3 months. And I happen to have a scenario just like this happening right now. What's the difference? And oftentimes it's mistakes made as part of the selling and listing process. So we're going to go through them. So I'm going to do step 1 here. Mistake number 1. It's number 1 for a reason. Overpricing your home. It's so easy to do, Cody. So let's talk about overpricing and why it matters.
Well, listen, first and foremost, we both own real estate.
Yes.
When the time comes to sell, we
want all we can get.
We want all we can get, right? We want that. I don't want to leave a penny on the table, right? So we all acknowledge and know that you, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, you want top dollar just like we do.
That's it.
Right. And so, but pricing too high, it actually works against you, right? And that's what you're seeing. Yeah. And that's why we're starting with this is mistake number 1. Yeah. Right? If you price it too high, it will harm you in the long run.
That's right.
So go ahead, John.
Yeah. So overpricing, like I said, none of us want to leave money on the table. And what we've seen, so it's been a recency effect, but you used to be able to overprice and then you'd make adjustments. And then that's when the market would, kind of come to notice your property, because when that person came to the market, they would see your house and you would have lowered the price by then. And back when you used to put them in a newspaper, that was how you did it. And you still sell, you sell cars that way. You ask for a little bit more than you think it's worth and you negotiate out. Just the market doesn't bear that anymore. Buyers don't tolerate that anymore. And if it's overpriced, people just swipe past it. And they say, I've seen that house, it's overpriced. And so the next time they see it on their phone or their computer, in their mind, they go, I've already seen it and it's overpriced. It's all part of it. The strategies are just a little bit different now. It used to be start high, work your way back until somebody finally jumps on it. There's still a little bit of truth to that, if the market requires it. But it's much more important now to try to nail it off the get. And just saying, hey, let's just shoot for the moon and try to walk it back, it's a kiss of death, because once it sits for a while, a lot of the market has already seen it. They've decided it's overpriced and they've moved on. And it's one of those things that's unfortunate because it shouldn't be that way, but it's a buyer behavior that we really have to pay attention to. And in the scenario I mentioned before, this mistake came into play. I know a neighborhood, and in that neighborhood, 2 houses went up for sale. One's been on the market for 3 or 4 months. The other one was on the market for 2 weeks, went under contract. The biggest difference is when I saw the first one, I said, that's a little high. They're going to have to come down off that. And the other one, I think, they probably could have gotten a little bit more, but they got it under a certain, we call it 100,000 bracket, just under, and it sold like that. Similar homes, same neighborhood, similar architecture, but one was overpriced, one was priced strategically, one sold fast, one's still sitting.
Yeah. And I have an exact example of this. Listing went live last Thursday. We've got one in the neighborhood that's directly across the street. Mm-hmm. Not a direct comp. It's a ranch, not on a basement. I've got a 2-story on a basement. My 2-story is original from 26 years ago, including the septic, believe it or not. Yeah. Never been pumped. And then, so the one across the street has probably $50,000 to $70,000 in upgrades. Okay. So that one popped up 2 days before we decided to list this property. And when I was at the listing appointment, I said, did you guys see that one? I said, of course we saw that one. It was listed at $489.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, if we look at that, we've got a beautiful kitchen, we've got a beautiful master, and then we've got ours where, again, it was a lived in house, right? We priced it strategically. Our sellers listened to our pricing strategy. And opening day, and this is the importance of pricing it right. The first 2 weeks are what really matters. Opening weekend is crucial.
Yeah.
And we had 14 showings from Thursday to Sunday. By Saturday, end of afternoon, we had 4 different offers in our hand.
Yeah. And so the argument against that's going to be, well, if you got that much attention and you sold it that quickly, then what did you leave on the table? And there's 2 answers to that. One is, well, what was your goal? Your goal was to, if you listed at a certain price, your goal was to sell it at or about that price and to sell it quickly. That's been matched. You go, well, maybe I could have gotten more for it. You also could have sat for months and months and you would have come down in price anyway. So we're not under listers. We know folks that take that strategy that will purposely list it low to either get a bidding war or just to sell it fast because they brag about how fast they sell. I'm not about trying to sell it the fastest, but I also know that most people, when they list their house, they're trying to sell it. And so I do know people who will overlist and say, hey, I can afford to sit for a year. That's fine. And that's a different strategy. But if you're actually trying to sell it, price it to where it can sell. And then you brought up the good point in our previous episode, but it's a practice we both have. And that's when we do our pricing, we're going to see what we're up against directly. And so it's really easy to tell, man, if you looked at my house and you looked at the other house, which one are they going to pick based on the price and the bang for the buck and all that stuff? And you do have to listen to your realtor because your realtor's got they're going to be a little less biased about, they're going to be more pragmatic about looking at the other house and looking at your house. If you kind of love your house, which a lot of people do, they look past some of the imperfection. And that's okay. I'm just as guilty, but as far as pricing and pricing too high, I'm going to say I'm going to wrap it up my point by saying it like this. Trying for more just to see what happens is a failing strategy.
Absolutely.
That's it. So I understand we're trying to maximize too, but when we go, this is right where I think the market's going to go. Anything more than that, just be prepared to sit. Anything less than that, then we'll negotiate. But if the idea is to bring it down later, you're going to be sitting. Yep. So that's mistake number 1 is like shooting for the moon.
Yeah. You don't land among the stars.
Yeah, right. You don't. You come back to earth. You come right back to earth.
Yeah, real quick. All right. So mistake number 2.
Yeah.
And we kind of covered this in this last episode, waiting too long to list, right? Yeah. So some homeowners try to, time that market properly or perfectly. Yeah. And, again, the listing appointments that I've gone on, a lot of people, I want to wait until April, end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah.
What am I telling them, Johnny?
Yeah, there's one, it's never too early to engage with your agent and your lender for the next house and all that stuff in preparing. The listing I'm going to have next month, they called me I think it was last April. It was before last summer, and they're selling this summer. But they wanted to know, should we put it on the market in December? When should we put it on the market so that we could sell by this summer? And again, it's not like I'm charging them in the meantime, so it's free to do. It's no harm to you to engage early. Now, a year in advance, you don't have to be a year in advance, but certainly make sure you understand the best timing. Now, we talk about not trying to time the market, but there is some timing to the season, the buying and selling season. And the spring is you should be engaged with your agent no later than January if you plan to sell that summer. And so you go, well, I'll call them in April and, maybe we'll get it listed in May or June. A lot of buyers have made their decision by then because the school year is such a driver. Think of the school year as like when school starts, the market stops for a solid month. Nothing happens in September, and you need to be engaged before that. So just engage your agent, let them know that, hey, I'd like to sell this year. Most likely they're going to say by February, like these folks, they want to sell this summer. We got together in January And I said, you might be surprised, but we need to have this ball rolling. I mean, we need pictures in March. We need to be, and that's already, and I'm already pushing it back a little bit to accommodate some of their needs. But the point is never too early to engage. And the ball should be rolling when it's still cold outside, and because you should be preparing. And we're going to talk about that too. But what do I need to do? Do I need to lay down some new mulch? Do I need to plant some stuff? Do I need to have stuff trimmed? Do I need to paint? You want some runway to do that.
You're right.
And so waiting until April or May to start that process, you're going to be flowing real late in the season and grasping.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to mention, what I'm telling these sellers is that everyone else is waiting to list until end of March or end of April and beginning of May.
Yeah.
What is that going to do? It's going to drive competition.
Yeah.
And if your house is subpar compared to the one that's there, and they're listed at 500 and you thought you could get 500 for yours, and it's not a direct correlation, guess what? You're not getting 500.
Yeah.
And they may not get 500.
But Cody, I don't want to move. I got kids in school. I can't pull them out of school. So I don't want to list it too early. What do you say?
Listen, we'll work with it, right? We can negotiate. If I know what your goal is, as far as like a targeted closing date, maybe it's the end of school. Maybe we go on end of March and we look for a buyer that's willing to do a 45 or a 60-day close. Or we look for a buyer that does a 30-day close and a 30-day temporary occupancy.
Yeah.
We could still negotiate that if we know it at the front end of the listing agreement, the consultation, the appointment, versus getting into the contract, getting it under contract, and then you come to me 2 weeks into it and say, by the way, I need to move the closing date.
Yeah. So the answer is there are very common, very usual mechanisms we can use to go from when somebody's really interested in your house to when you have to be moved out. We can extend that time 3-4 months, which will get you well into the summer, way past when school lets out, way into a time that's more comfortable for you. So temporary occupancy is one, or just kind of pushing off closing a little bit. So whomever's buying it will have some input, of course, but generally speaking, if they want your home, they'll be be reasonable about how you negotiate that part. But yeah, that's the responses. We can work that in. You're not going to be living in a hotel while your kid's doing their last 2 or 3 weeks of school. And that's what we're trying to avoid. So yeah, get in as early as you can. So mistake number 3, Cody, we see it all the time. Folks that love their house so much, it's so loved, and their kids are so great, and their kids have never made a mess, but they don't want to prepare the home for sale. They don't want to, again, we're talking about a mistake. We're not talking about you. You wouldn't do this. You wouldn't do this, but we've seen other people do it. So be a good example, continue to be a good example to them. Not preparing your home. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Well, there was a time and a place that you could put your home up on the market and be cluttered and be dirty and have the cobwebs.
2021.
Yeah. Yeah, not do anything to the front yard, not repair rotten wood boards on the back deck, not put patches over drywall. Now, you should always do that. But yeah, this is crucial. This is 100% crucial. And going back to that listing I was telling you about Thursday, when I went over to their listing, the first consultation was in January. And they said, hey, this is what we're thinking. We have family land. We want to build a house, but we need the equity out of this. And so when I walked into their home, now this was a family of 7, so very similar to mine, 5 kids, 2 adults, and I think they had 3 dogs. And I walked in and I said, my goodness, we've got to get this ready. And so we went through and we did a basic staging plan. Which included the decluttering and moving some items around. And then we also talked about the exterior, because the exterior is also just as important, because that's your curb appeal.
That's right.
Right?
That's your
first
impression.
Right, your first impression. But here's the reality of why we want the home prepared, at least you and I, Johnny, and the agents here at Anchor Real Estate Advisors, is because we hire professional photographers.
Right.
And professional photography is what draws the showings and draws the interest into the property.
Right.
So if I I'm doing a disservice to my clients if I'm not telling them, yes, you do need to spruce up the flower beds. You do need to pressure wash.
Yeah.
You do need to get the cobwebs down from your basement that's not been used, because guess what? They're going to go through there. And if you choose not to do that, then ultimately you're harming yourself. Now, it may not show up in pictures, right? But the clutter will. And in an 8 by 10 room or a 10 by 12 room that is filled to the brim with stuff, it doesn't feel like a 10 by 12 room if it were decluttered. So, I am a huge proponent. I'm not saying to get rid of your stuff. I'm not saying to give it away. I don't go in there and make people feel bad about their stuff, because I wouldn't want someone to do that when they came into my house. But we have one shot.
Yeah.
We have one shot.
Yep.
They're going to be brought in for the pictures, and then they're going to come in, and then as they pull into the driveway, is that flower bed manicured? Is the grass cut? Is the walkway pressure washed? Right? And then they walk in. Is there junk that's met with them as soon as they lay eyes into the front, walkway?
Yeah.
Or is it walk in and you're like, man, I feel peace. I feel, wow, this is refreshing, especially knowing that they probably looked at a couple other houses. So now they're comparing your house to something that they've already
to the
seen.
feeling they had in the last one.
Right.
Yeah. You only got one shot. Don't miss your chance to blow. Right.
When opportunity knocks. Once in a lifetime.
No, the truth is, so you apply that, right? It's the first impression, and there's a couple things here. One, you are comparing. You're going to compare to the house you just saw. And if you're walking in and it just doesn't feel good, and cluttered creates bad feelings, it's another one of those pseudosciences that we work with to understand the buyer mentality and the buyer behavior. But when you start the process, I always tell people, go out of your driveway. And I suggest do it in your car, because when the buyer arrives, they're going to arrive in their car and come back in with a critical eye. If you want, I'll ride in the car with you, and we'll ride in together with a critical eye, and I'm going to trim that, mulch that. And I've been known to go in and mulch that for you or plant some bushes, whatever. But the point is, understand that. So that's a curb appeal thing. And then it's the same attitude when you open the front door. And what's that first experience, the first 30 seconds? You've talked about smell, right? The view, the lighting, all that stuff. And ultimately that's because that's all going to happen because you have prepared the home. You've prepared, and you want people to come in and go, well, this is delightful. You just have to have that. And the other element here is one thing I learned long ago, and this is true. People will judge what they can't see by what they can see. So if they see cluttered mess, they think, I haven't been maintaining this place. They're too disorganized. This is just a little chaotic. And if this is chaotic, there's no way they've maintained the gutters like they should. And you could be the maintenance king, but they're going to say, no, again, this isn't on a survey. It's just what we've recognized. People will walk into a cluttered house that is ultimately like perfect if you could get rid of the clutter, but they go and turn around and go right back out. So preparing the home, and it doesn't have to be, we're not saying paint the whole thing, but I will tell you that, again, the last personal home that I sold, I took time off of work and I spent a bunch of time and I did all the to-dos that I'd been meaning to do in the years prior. And I got that house as perfect as I could. Patched every little seam in the trim and touch up paint, and, made sure the yard was as perfect as it could be, and, all that stuff, because I wanted somebody to walk in and just think, oh, it's all taken care of. Also, the to-do list. If you're not preparing your home, that buyer's going to go, well, I got to clean that. I got to take that down. I got to fix that. That's going to be the first thing I need to do. And you don't want them having a big, long to-do list that they're racking up in their head. You've taken care of it all. Make your house easy to buy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that. Make your house easy to buy. That should be the title.
Well.
All right. So mistake number 4, and we have not been accused of this. No. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Poor marketing.
Yeah. And this comes in many, many forms.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I said we should do a whole episode on a quality listing versus poor listings. But there's a lot that goes into marketing a property, and it's not just the MLS. But I'd say the MLS, the public-facing element of what people see from the MLS is probably the most important. So the pictures, the listing, but then how that listing is going to be displayed on the different national sites. And so we have an understanding of that, and we'll curate the listing to make sure that it shows best not only on the MLS, but specifically to the national sites, because that's where most of the public is going to first encounter your listing. That's part of it. And then we've got online presence and all that. So people are going to see your house first because they're doing a search on realtor.com or Zillow or whatever, or they're going to see it in their socials. Those are the two biggest, because that's what they're doing. They're either searching for a house or it pops up on their socials. Those are the ones that we attack the most. But in that regard, the most important thing, the single most important thing, and we see it, is the pictures. You talked about it in preparing, because when you prepare, you're preparing for professional photography. So let's go, you're going to take a family picture. You've hired a photographer. Are you going to wear your wife beater to that shoot? No, you're going to wear something nice. Understand you got somebody coming to take pictures. You're paying them money. Let's get this thing right. And also, but I just saw a house listing. It's a cabin in Blue Ridge. It's $700,000. It's brand new construction. And I can tell the agent went through with their cell phone and took a bunch of pictures. And they're grainy, and they're just like, you can't see the detail. It doesn't show the space. It just is not thought through. That's what the public is going to see and judge on. And so the marketing isn't all about pictures, but if we use the pictures as the hub, it's the hub of the wheel. It really starts there, because the visual is what gets people first. Okay, our first impression, and then we go from there. So tell me more about poor marketing, or I'm going to say lazy marketing.
Yeah, lazy marketing, poor marketing. I think it's poor because the agent's lazy. I mean, I don't even know what that word is to describe it. It bothers me so. Visceral.
That's the reaction I have.
Yeah, and it's like, God, for example, you said $700,000 house. I saw a $650,000 house in Forsyth County. I literally see the agent's pinky finger
blurring the camera.
No, but you could see the finger. You could see like the tip of the finger, and I'm like, why? What is it that causes this agent to think that she could sell a $650,000 house with cell phone pictures? Now, don't get me wrong. Cell phones have come a long way with photography. Yeah. And in one point of my career, I was using the latest, greatest iPhone, and I was getting very good pictures, but I'd also been doing it. My wife's a photographer. Yeah. So like for me, that just, it drives me bonkers. It just really bothers me, because at the end of the day, that is a disservice to the client.
Oh, for sure.
Right. It's a disservice by saying, hey, and maybe they were a discount. Maybe they said, I'm listening for a flat fee, whatever. I get that. And I understand. We already talked about, we want maximizing the profit, right, when we sell the house. But in my opinion, like you said, the photography is the hub. And this question has come up over and over and over again on my listing appointments that I go on. What do you do different to market the property?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's very, very simple. My answer in my reply, we talked about this in our team meeting, was, any agent can put the listing on MLS, right? You can find flat fee services. Duffy Realty, there's a couple of them. List your home, whatever, at a discount. They go through and they put it on the MLS to get it out, to syndicate out to the public sites. But that's really all they do, is they just put it on MLS. But MLS doesn't sell the property. We have to market the property. We have to put it there, as it does syndicate out. But then what makes us different is our social media presence, right? And whether it's your Instagram, whether it's Anchor's Instagram, we are getting hundreds and thousands of views on our content weekly.
Yeah.
Not only do we have a strong social media presence, but our agents are trained on how to advertise our listings in other states. What you say, Cody, that we advertise in Washington because Zillow's in Washington, right? Yeah. No, I'm saying we could target buyers that may be relocating from Texas.
Yeah.
They may be relocating from California, Florida.
Yeah. We have
New York.
We have feeder markets that we advertise.
We have feeder markets, right? Because we track where they're coming from.
Yeah.
A lot of our clientele are relocating from Florida. They want that vacation home, or they want it to be primary. They want to retire to the mountains. We can advertise and target them. Then we also have our CRM, our database of all of the clients that we helped. By the way, we're over 1,400 clients as of last year's numbers. So we have 10,000 contacts plus, right? So we can go in and we could find out where are these buyers that have indicated that they were interested in maybe that specific home that we're about to list in Dahlonega, and we could blast this out to them and get them exposure before they even see it on those public sites. So
there's, we said lazy, we said poor. There's also cheap. Okay. So when I think that question, so when you're interviewing an agent, ask them what their differentiator is. And it's okay to ask, what is your investment to a degree? And that is, understand, I'm paying a lot of money for the best professional photographers. Depending on the property, we'll do videos for the property. That's more money. And depending on the property is how we'll advertise it. And when we push it out on socials, we have good following, but we also promote it. We do ad spend. And so it's what often happens when you ask and when you go to a discount broker or you say, hey, I got Sally will do it for, a bunch less. You go, I'm spending a lot more money in Sally. And understanding that. So understanding the investment. So we invest all that stuff, all that money up front. And I'll tell you what all that is as we go into it. And each property is a little bit different. But the poor marketing to me is lazy and cheap. I just want to take pictures with my cell phone. I'm going to send them out there and kind of hope for the best. And it's all a disservice to the client. Yes. Yeah. Good, cheap, fast, big two.
Big two.
Right. All right, here we go. We're going to wrap it up with mistake number 5. And that's hiring the wrong agent. So I guess there's a little bit of a segue there between the poor marketing and hiring the wrong agent. But there are a series of questions you should ask in hiring the right agent. So what should be the questions? Well, how do you decide who's a good agent, who's not? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give you for example. Okay, and this made my day yesterday. Okay, so went on a listing appointment. These guys live in Miami. They found me. I didn't know how they found me. They reached out and said, we want you at our house at 8:30. Okay. And so we're sitting there doing the interview. They're drilling me. Okay. These are 2 ex-salespeople. Okay. And so Josh is sitting next to me and he's like, oh my gosh, it was a barrage. Yeah. It was like boom, boom, boom. Yeah. They've done their research. Yeah. They are also, I would say, very intuitive with AI. Okay, so this lady's like, well, I think, it just sounds like AI is asking this question, but it's really me, but I may have got it from AI. I said, I know you got it from AI. It's okay.
What should I ask my agent?
And so the purpose of that story was, she said, did my husband tell you how we found you? And I said, no, I mean, Google, like we've got a wonderful review, Zillow, whatever. And she said, no, I went into ChatGPT AI and I did Dawson County, Jasper County, and then I merged them. Who were the best agents? Can you use chat to ask, who the best agents are? You can, right? Google, who are the best realtors? A lot of times the general public at least, they don't understand that. Obviously, they can read that it's an ad or sponsored, but there are agents that are paying to be top placed on Google. Not wrong with that. I do that. I have Google ads running, but go look at their reviews, right? What are other people saying about them? Specifically, if you're engaging with a listing agent, go and read those seller reviews that have been left, right? Go look up their profile, their Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com. All of those public sites have the history. They should have the history of that agent.
That's right.
Right? What do their listings look like? Right? How many active listings do they have? Although you can't really judge an agent on how many active listings you have because they may be under contract. Yeah. Right? So, what are the questions that you're asking? You want a big question. What do you think my home is worth? Yeah. Right? And I typically, I don't struggle in that area, but not in the mindset of like I have the wrong value.
Yeah.
But I know when I share that value,
Yeah.
I am looking at their face.
Yeah.
Because I either hit it,
Yeah.
I went over it,
Yeah.
or I'm way under it.
That's right.
And so yesterday's appointment, I was way under it with the husband.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy part. The wife said, chat said it should be between 530 and 550.
Mm-hmm.
And my range was 525 to 550. So she's like, I think we could start at 549.9.
Uh-huh.
So it's crazy world we're living in, Johnny.
So ask AI before you go in the listing.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But
no, actually, I had a similar experience. And this is a mistakes episode, but it's similar. Speaking listing appointment, I was selling a house down the street. He liked the listing, so he called me in. Beautiful house in the mountains. And he said, well, I'm getting an appraisal done. I said, okay, well, independent of your appraisal, I'll run a CMA and we'll just see how they pan out. So I did my CMA. I gave him the number. I said, I think you're between 875 and 925. He goes, okay. And I said, well, how's that compare to the appraisal? He said, well, you're low. I said, okay, no problem. And I checked in with him like a week later, didn't hear anything back. So I kind of figured that he had moved on. So he ended up listing the house at $1.25 million.
$1.25 million?
$1.25 million a year and a half ago. And it's on its third realtor now. And it's down to I think he's got it down to 979. And I told him a year and a half ago that you were going to be in the mid nines. And so the reason that we tell this story isn't because, we're always right all the time. It's I'm willing to go in and tell someone where I think it's at, just like I'm going to be willing to say when somebody offers a low offer, I'm going to go, that's not going to work. I'm going to advocate for you and I'm going to advocate for what's right. And so when you're picking the right agent, or what we talked about here is picking the wrong agent, the mistake is picking the agent that says, I think it's worth, and then so long as their price is highest, that's the one you go with. That is the mistake. So the two things are don't pick them based on their opinion of the price, and do just a little bit of research into what they have done. And I will give one more warning here, and that is working with family members. Unless they have go ahead.
You're going here. You're going to do it on camera?
Yeah.
Do it. Go for it. Send it. Send it. Why don't you work with family?
Well, there's a couple reasons. I mean, it's definitely when it becomes a professional relationship, it can get really weird. And also, maybe your family member's not that good. And there's no offense to anybody. It's saying, I just want you to double think it. And if they're proven, bona fide, all that, I do all the buying and selling for my family, but I have a proven track record of doing it. They're builders, and I will sell their homes, and they've been happy with the service. But if you're hiring your niece that just got her license, and God bless them, they need to start somewhere. Yeah. But understand, you're going to have to work with that. And here's a workaround. You go, hey, I'm a little worried about working with family. I'm worried about that kind of messing up our relationship. So what I want you to do is go find somebody at your brokerage that can, somebody experienced, and we'll make sure you get the referral. Or a co-listing. Yeah. So let's do that. So if you want to hire the family member and you want them engaged, but you're a little unsure about, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, say, hey, I want you to co-list it. And it's all because I want our relationship to be good. So the person I yell at for it not working, the price being all messed up and I don't want that to be you. I want it to be somebody else, but you can work them in, do a referral or co-listing.
Yeah. And again, we're not saying to steer or to shy away from family members, but we have heard that objection over and over. My aunt's niece's nephew, whatever, son's daughter, just got her license. Yeah. Again, I was new.
All start somewhere.
I was new. I didn't start with a listing.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not. I started with buyers because I needed to know how that process worked. I needed to know what it was like to negotiate and how to negotiate. Yeah. And then when I got my first listing, then it was like, okay, now I know. I had 3 or 4 under my belt. Now I knew kind of how the process worked. Again, I'm not saying we're not saying your family member cannot represent you, but proven track record, and this can be a very stressful process, a very emotional process.
Yeah.
And you don't want to break that family dynamic over a real estate transaction. Yeah. Right. And we have seen that in the past.
Yeah. It's a simple truth. It's working with family, anything like that. It has such a potential to go sideways and mess up. And like I said, if they're that new and they're that inexperienced, are they going to get that top dollar that we all want to get?
Yeah. So co-list it.
Yeah, co-list it. Yeah, that's our advice.
Yep.
So we're gonna land this plane. We're understanding our home value, and we're gonna list it strategically. We're not gonna start high for giggles and see what happens. We're not doing that. We're gonna list it at a price that we think it can sell for, especially if you've got if you're timeline driven at all. We're going to prepare the home. You might have a beautiful home. It might be almost perfect. Let's make it perfect. If it's a disaster, let's at least get it reasonable. But and the truth is, like, we've got kids. Our house is chaotic. On any given day, I would not want somebody walking through. I need time to prepare that sucker. In fact, I get in a lot of trouble if I let somebody in the house and my wife hasn't had her opportunity to, it's that thing like, or like if I let the delivery guy step inside, for a second, and she's like, but the bed wasn't made. But bed's on the backside of the house. Doesn't matter. So yeah, preparing the home. Your price strategically. So we talked about overprice. Don't shoot. That overpricing thing is a bad part of an overall strategy. But we're combining a bunch of things in our strategy, and it's a dynamic thing, but it's all in the strategy. Your launch marketing. So we didn't talk about launch, but we did say specifically that first 2 weeks, that first impression, that opening statement, that very first time is the most critical, is the most important. So we hadn't used the word launch, but a mistake people make is not considering it like a grand opening and not getting everything in order as best you can beforehand. And then we have really being prudent about who you're going to hire as an agent, and look at their track record, look at their previous listings. Okay. And it's to get a feeling, because I'll admit a lot of my listings feel the same. I have a process. I have what I think are, best procedures, and I'm going to use those from house to house, and I will tweak it, of course. But generally speaking, if you see one of my houses that's in a similar price range as yours, your listing will be similar to that, and see if that meets your standard. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the reality. If you're thinking about selling in the next 6 to 12 months, you should absolutely give Johnny and I a call.
Yeah. Be smart.
Be smart about it, right? At least give us a shot at it.
Yeah.
I can guarantee that you won't be disappointed.
Yeah.
Johnny and I deeply care, as well as our other agents here at Anchor Real Estate Advisors. We care about our clients. Mm-hmm. We're not in it to line our pockets. We're in it to line your pockets, mm-hmm. right? To help make this transition as smooth and as simple as possible.
That's it.
So, yeah.
You can dig into us. You want to find us? You want to call us? I'm Johnny Dugan at Mountain Mansions GA on Facebook and the Instagram. My number, you want to call me direct, 470-215-1316. Cody
Chembars on Instagram, Anchorman86 on Facebook, and you can call 770-744-2575.
Yeah, reach out anytime. You can call or text, and we'll get the ball rolling for you. Finish it up.
You are loved.
You are loved. Amen to that. Snap it. That was so Freudian of a response.
All I heard was Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah.
Well, that dates us too. All right.